I just want to talk about the the F1 24 beta test that we had. I'd say about a week ago, and everything that I thought about it, and other people thought about it, and kind of my issues, and not all issues. Like there are a lot of good things about this game, and I think what we have here is a good. While it's not, I think, what not everyone wanted, with maybe like a new engine that a lot of people were suspecting. Um, we do we do get something to work on, and we have something to work with, if you know what I mean. And it's just, yeah. Anyway, moving on. We had quite a big announcement from EA actually on the beta test. Uh, they basically said that um, something was wrong with the game in the beta test. There was something wrong with how the handling was working and the car and the FOM car that we had in the game. And that was good news, I'd say, because what we had in initially when I started playing it was a very, let's say, off, just horrible feeling in the corners, in the car, just the tires. I just felt like something wasn't working, and we didn't really get what we were thinking we were going to get. I thought we were going to get an improvement upon the handling that we had in F1 23, and what we kind of got is just this whole new thing. And I'm all for like big change, but this is big change, and it's just not what we wanted. I feel like a lot of people realised that. So we got this message saying, basically from one of the guys down at EA and Cody's, that there was an issue with the car that everyone was using in this beta test, and that there was clearly an issue and they are working on it for the next beta test. And that a lot of feedback came through, which was a good thing. That I put in a bit of feedback saying how I really didn't like the handling. It's very, very inconsistent. Braking felt very. Maybe that's something that personally I have to work on in myself, just to brake better. Like, I felt like you couldn't late brake because you just lock up, and it just felt awkward. You'd lock up, or the way the car felt just didn't work, and you always had to run the front brake bias quite high so that you didn't have the fronts locking up as much. But that also put you susceptible to rear end locking and whatever more, and issues in the corner. And it was just so tricky to deal with. I just never really found a foot with it. I did get a setup that kind of worked in the end. I'm not going to go too into it, but I got a setup working in the end, and I did feel a lot more kind of happy with the car. It definitely felt more what I was hoping, but it definitely changed how the car felt. I feel like with how you go from a standard setup in F1 23 to a like esports setup in F1 23, there's the car still feels the same. It's just like, oh, it literally can turn further, or it literally has a pointier front end. Whereas this, it completely changed how the car felt, and I think that's a good thing. We need that kind of like the car feels different, and we can't always have it feel the same, but just, oh, the front end's a bit more, and the brake bias. Like, I feel like there's a lot more you can do with the setup now and make it feel more personal to you, which is good. But the issue with that, while they were trying to accomplish that, what they've done is they've clearly made an error in how the car actually handles, and it did feel rough. I felt like it was I definitely felt like a controller player base was prioritized in the making of this, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. And definitely I feel like a new player base was prioritized over the core fan base. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We should always try and get new people into the sport and into the game, but you have to keep your core player base, right? So I feel like that upset a lot of people. I just found it really frustrating a lot of the time with the car just locking up, or too much understeer, or too much oversteer. It felt, I I similarly described it to the Ferraris of the early hybrid era, and how they would kind of just understeer, oversteer everywhere, and that's what it felt like on these default setups. But then I tried. I think this is the biggest thing that I felt was bad. It was the rain. The car in the rain. It did not feel like an F1 car. It was weird because I enjoyed it, but the issue with it, it was just drifting every corner. Like the rear would go, and weirdly enough, it would just, you could easily save it. It felt very awkward, not realistic. I'm not saying it has to be sim, but I just feel that if literally the car is nearly sideways and I'm saving it in the wet, on full wets, like, that's not how an F1 car works. The car will go round. That's not how it works. I just felt that's way too easy, and it was taking a bit of a step back in terms of realism, and maybe not realism, but just immersion with an F1 car. An F1 car doesn't react like that. Anyway, I feel like with the default setups, they definitely need to change, because for even a new player base, they're going to struggle with them, because they're just not fun, and they're really inconsistent, and there's an issue with them. But other than that, other than handling, let's move away from handling. What else in the game is there? There's some other things in the game. We had... What did I find quite good? A few little small things. There wasn't much in terms of features compared to 23 in this beta, so it was hard to tell. The only thing I think my number one thing is really minor, which is kind of disappointing, but it is just a beta, is the sound of the F1 cars. Now, on board, they sound the same compared to last year, but when you're on the TV cam, like off track, like cameras, I don't know what you call it, but the TV cam, what you'd see on a commentary, the cars actually sound like Formula 1 cars. Now, they definitely had some bugs, but they do sound like F1 cars now as they go past. I swear, in previous games, they've not really sounded like F1 cars. I felt they've kind of just been weird and muffled out. Now they really do sound like an F1 car, which is good. I thought that the actual graphics wise, I have quite a high MPC, so I'm able to run these things high, and I thought that the graphics was quite in the rain. I thought it was that they've redone the rain, I think, and they've redone how rain works, but I'm going to stay on the graphics side for a second here. I feel like the rain was really nice. The spray, I think it's the same. But the rain itself, how it sticks to the track and how it goes away, I thought it was a lot nicer and it looked a lot better. The game, but other than the rain, I wouldn't say the game's exactly any more graphically impressive than it has been in the past. But I feel like in the last few years we've just kind of had the same graphics, which is fine. I mean, the game does look really good already in my opinion, so I feel like where can you go from that? I mean, I think we'd have to wait for a new engine if we want these graphics to get any better. But anyway, moving back to the rain again, with how it dries up and how it works on the curbs, which is the new thing. I haven't noticed anything where it's like, oh, if you go offline here, you might be more wet. That hasn't really been a thing. Like, it's definitely not there. But I've noticed that on curbs, the rain will stay a lot longer, and it definitely will. They're more slippy than while the track is drying. So if the track looks dry, the curbs might not be, and I think they do show it that they're not dry. But as someone who just came off 23 where that wasn't a case, this is a new thing, and I did struggle with it at first because it's hard to like kind of adapt, but especially with the handling. But yeah, it kind of got to it. It was cool. It's a good addition. I think it was a good addition. We need more stuff like that in the rain. I wish we had a dynamic rain system like they now do in iRacing. Obviously, it's not a simulator, but this is a game that's meant to a lot of people play. A lot of like people who are really invested, like me, like many others, really enjoy. And I think that we should invest in having cool dynamic rain, and how it, like, going on a wet line is better than going on the dry line in the wet. Like, that's realistic. If you had seen the Chinese Grand Prix sprint qualifying from earlier today when I was recording this, you'll see that they do not take that dry line. Anyway, moving on. I thought that was great, and I feel like there's just so much more we could do with the dry line, wet line situation. But other than that, is there any more features that I could really think about? Not truly, I'm not going to lie to you. I thought online was just the same as it's always been. You know, it is a beta, but I don't see them changing it in any way. I'm not going to lie. I don't see us getting servers, proper servers from EA. Like, I don't see that happening, annoyingly. So we're going to be stuck with this for another year, which I think many in the community will always say most disappointing thing about these games at the moment is that we don't have, in all of the F1 games, I feel like it's been like this, and at least since 2015, we've had this issue with the online where it's just so rough. And you can have good online racing, but it's not what it should be at this point. We're with EA now, we should have a good basis. I get it with Cody's, you know, they're smaller, it's hard for them, but now we have EA, big money budget. That's what a lot of people wanted. That's what I remember thinking back then, back when EA acquired Cody's and the F1 game. I kind of expected that EA would put the money in so we would get proper servers, you know, redone game, new engine. This is what we all thought we would get, and what we've got is this game and the last two games, where I feel like we've been, especially in 22, where we were pretty much robbed of a good game. 23 is what 22 should have been, in my opinion, but let's not go down that route. Just to end it off, I think that we've had it's been a good beta test, we've got a lot out of it, but I think the main thing to take from this is that we are going down the route of what EA does, I think, which is these copy and paste games every year. And I'm not saying it's been like this for a few years now, where we've had the same game just with new liveries and maybe like a new story mode, which to be honest I don't like. But we have to look forward to what we can get out of these games. We've just had the reveal trailer. I think it was the reveal trailer recently. It talked about how we're getting a Spa and Silverstone track updates, which are good, and Qatar. I don't know what the other one was, but it was good to see. We're getting like radio messages now, which these are really good things. Driver career mode is changing quite a bit. We're getting a lot of features that have been needed for a few years now, I think. That's what annoys me with this. They're just implementing things that have been needed for years. Stuff like red flags, like we needed that ages ago. I'm happy you added it, but we should have had this years ago. But yeah, that's all I've got to say about this beta test. We've got another one coming up in a few weeks, and I'll be on that again. So I hope to see what EA can provide us, maybe some improvements to the handling, and maybe we get a bit more in this beta test, hopefully. But anyway, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you later.